Welcome to episode 3 of Let's Talk, where we discuss anything and everything within the realms of how psychology plays out in real life.
On today's episode, we're going to talk about a type of communication that is very overlooked in everyday life, and that is intrapersonal communication.
Well, let's talk about it.
So when we mention communication, we tend to think about interpersonal communication, which is like me talking to you, like two or more people conversing or talking to each other. But I don't think that's what we're going to be focusing on today.
Yeah, today we're going to be focusing on intrapersonal communication, which is communication within oneself.
Yeah, so I want to share this quote that I found on a very fancy psych journal. So, if we choose to define intrapersonal communication as the physiological and psychological processing of messages that happens within individuals at conscious and non-conscious levels as they attempt to understand themselves and their environment, then we concur that those intrapersonal processes are the locus of meaning and provide the impetus for action. Towards that end, our unique individual worldviews form the basis for our behavior. Your interpersonal reality is giving meaning to these words and is the cause of the response you have as you read them. So
I have no idea what that means. You should
super fancy.
You should explain what that means.
Okay, so basically, how I choose to define this quote is intrapersonal communication is basically how we perceive ourselves. And the way we perceive ourselves can heavily impact the way we perceive other people and our surroundings as well. And therefore, intrapersonal communication, our own thoughts, our feelings, the way we speak about ourselves, that is what constructs the reality that we live in. And I think that's very powerful.
So this was like the study that's on like self-talk and like how that affects your interpersonal.
By what's his name again? Like Sladinsky or whatever.
Yeah. Well, let's begin like by defining what interpersonal communication is to ourselves.
Okay. What is interpersonal communication to you?
To me, it's just thinking in a more mindful way. It's a very simple one of them.
Wow, thinking in a more mindful way. No, that makes sense, yeah. I think to me, it deals a lot with metacognition, fancy psychology term I learned in psychology class. So metacognition, to those of you who don't know, is thinking about thinking. So basically being aware of your own thoughts. So like self-reflection in simpler terms. So I think that's a lot of what interpersonal communication is. It's thinking about your thoughts, having awareness of what you're,
just being aware of like, what you are. I think it's like taking a step back, and it's almost like being like another person that's judging yourself. If that makes sense.
Like disassociating.
Disassociating from yourself, and then like judging yourself objectively.
Like I know disassociating is not used as a good term in psychology, but it's kind of like if you're looking at your character as someone who isn't you. Right?
That's true. If you like saw this person on the street, or like it's like when you're having a dream and then you're like seeing yourself in the third person.
Do you have those dreams? I rarely have those dreams.
I think I used to have those.
I'm always in first person in my dreams.
Very egocentric. I guess the third person is more egocentric.
Yeah.
But
you know how like when you listen to meditation, they're always like, I want you to, just look at your thoughts as they're passing by and don't judge them. Just, accept them, acknowledge them. It's kind of like that. And that is why meditation is a form of interpersonal communication, I think.
Some parts that fall under interpersonal psychology is just, broadly just self-awareness and being aware of one's own biases. I think that's a very big part. It's like biases that play in our lives, like anything from like our biases on like social like trends, like fashion trends, to like political beliefs or like our own values even.
And like self-talk, the way you talk about yourself. Because if you're always like, man, I suck at math, then you're actually going to suck at math.
You're biased against yourself.
Yeah, you're biased against yourself, which affects the way you talk about yourself and to yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I think, we can start with the kind of like social and cultural aspects of interpersonal psychology, and how does culture and society play a role in shaping our beliefs and like our self, basically. Ourselves, basically.
But what are like biases that you have
from
that
like
you
those
think,
yeah,
like
they're
cultural
not-
background,
yeah, that, like,
social.
yeah, the ones that I'm aware of that like of my behaviors and thoughts that like are not basically my own. They're basically like,
Yeah.
they were like basically
They're
forced
like
on us.
planted
yeah,
into
by
you.
society.
Yeah.
I think a lot of like trends you see online. I think even like the way you speak, like now on like social media, there's so many like terms and like like so much slang.
Like slay,
Yeah.
no cap.
Yeah, that's basically been like, it's like it's not even like you're being like mind controlled to like a certain
Bombastic
extent.
side eye.
That's so cringe. It's
it's really.
yeah, you're basically
we all
like
fall
your biases
victim
are
to it.
basically like being mind controlled by likes, or I guess those aren't really biases. But biases are it's like more of a broad term. I think cultural and societal like expectations. That's one thing. I think within like I'm Chinese, within like Chinese culture, there's a lot of expectation on academics. One thing. And,
Like working hard to.
having to like go to like the best university, studying and not playing, like the long-term orientation.
And make a ton of money, send.
Don't spend any money now.
Keep your
save it
parents
all
at home.
for-
Don't send them to a nursing home.
And with like the academics part, I think when you're younger, I don't think you really practice like self-reflection as much.
Yeah.
Right? You're just not.
You have
that
very like
smart.
monkey brain mentality.
And it's I think like definitely when I was younger, I think everyone can relate. At least like with the people that I know, it's like you're doing things just because of what your culture or like family tells you to do. So if they're like, oh yeah, you gotta study hard, you're obviously gonna study hard and go to like a good university, make a lot of money in the future. Definitely not like a blue collar job. I guess that in a lot of cultures now it's like that. But I think now like when I got older, I kind of reflected and it's like, why do I want these things? It's like, it's like, why am I doing this? Is it for myself or is it because I'm being like
Brainwashed.
brainwashed by
By society.
by these cultural expectations.
I think I have the same experience, but with an opposite outcome. So you reflected when we got older, and you're like, I don't really want this. Like, I don't really identify with this culture. But I think for me, I kind of realized I have like I still do. I have like crises now and then. Like when I was a kid, my mom would be like, you gotta study hard, work hard, otherwise you're gonna become like one of those cleaning ladies on the street, picking up trash. Like they should be like, you see those workers, it's because they didn't get to study hard enough. And like now that I have grown up, I know that while to some extent that's true, it's also because of a lot of socioeconomic factors. We're not gonna get into that. But growing up, I was just always told, work hard, study hard, and it will pay off in the future. And like now it is May 25th on the day we're filming this, and our mocks are in like 5 days, and I keep telling myself like, why am I doing this? Especially in a few months ago as well, when you're what are we, juniors in high school? When you're a junior in high school, you begin thinking about college and like what universities you want to apply to, start doing this research. And like as I'm doing the research, I'm like looking at really top universities and asking myself, well, can I get to that first of all? And like, do I want to? And I think after a lot of self-reflection, I realized that yes, I wanted to at first because that was what it was always ingrained in me. But now I'm truly like, I truly want to attain that because I want to become a better person. And I think in terms of like self-discipline. And I think personally for me, because I know this doesn't apply to everybody, but by setting higher goals and trying to achieve goals in a more like goal-oriented life, it's going to push me to become the person that I want to be.
Because if you have higher goals but you still like fail or you still like fall short, you're still going to be like higher than if you set like a lower
shoot
goal.
for the moon, fall among the stars kind of thing. So I think even though I did question for a while whether or not the academic life was something I truly wanted, I realized that yes, it is what I wanted, because I think in the future I would like to be a career-driven person, because I think such accomplishments are important to me in my personal life, and that can help me achieve balance between my personal and my work life. So I think that I discovered that that's what I want, and that therefore it makes me feel better knowing like what I'm doing to achieve it. It's not like I'm studying pointlessly, you know?
Yeah, that's true. It's all about like truly knowing what you want, and like you can make the argument that you would never know what you truly want, and like obviously that's gonna change as you like grow older. Like what you want is gonna change, but still, like I think it's good to like understand what you really want and like questioning yourself, like why are you doing certain things to is it just to like please other people? And like if you really wanted to just like please other people, that's
fine too,
that's
right?
completely fine. But I think just me personally, I think like doing things for yourself is much more valuable than doing things for other people. And like it's, I mean, anything is fine. I think it's just good to be aware of the reason why. And like once you understand the reason why, you may or may not change what your behaviors are. Like for you, you're like still like aiming for, well, your behaviors are still aligned with like what the cultural expectations were of you, but they're for like different reasons. Like for me, it kind of like changed a bit. I mean, obviously I'm not like, I still want to like go to a good university, obviously, but I'm just more like, it's fine if I don't. I guess like, just like comparing me and you, obviously like, I think you place more emphasis on like going to a good university than me. And I think that's just like a different outcome of like the same cultural expectation that we had on.
And I think it's not just how society influences us. Well, obviously that's a big part, but it's also like identifying the way you view yourself, the way you talk to yourself, and like let's just ignore the societal factors because we all know that we're influenced by society. But you know, there's certain ways that people talk to themselves. You could be like, oh wow, I really like, I feel so stupid, therefore I am stupid, or I suck at math, I'm never gonna be good at math. Like it's like the stuff like that you think to yourself that you're not always super actively aware of. That's what can really contribute to cognitive distortion.
I think those are like the negatives of a bad or unhealthy interpersonal
communication
style. It's like what you mentioned is negative self-talk. You learn that in wellness too. Mental health. So like negative self-talk. There's negative and positive self-talk. Negative self-talk would be what Jennifer just like described or showed an example of, which is like, I suck at math, you know, I'm never going to be good at math. That would be negative self-talk after you like fail like a math exam. But positive self-talk would be like, it's fine, I studied hard enough, you know, next time I'll study harder, I could do better. That would be an example of like positive self-talk. And
I think it sounds easier said than done, like, you know, identifying that type of talk and then changing it. Because when you're used to doing it, then it's really hard to, it becomes like a habit, right?
And it's easier to like just think of yourself negatively. Because like,
you don't want to seem self-centered, right?
And like cognitive distortion, which is basically like, in like human, like normal terms, it's just like jumping to conclusions. That's cognitive distortion, right?
Normal
basically,
terms.
Cognitive, it's like I failed my math test, so I suck at math for the rest of my life. That's
System 1 thinking.
Jumping to conclusions. And that's much easier than like having to confront yourself and be like, okay, I gotta study harder next time. Because like, think about like how easy it is to just say like, I suck at math, I'll never try.
I'm just the way, this is just the way it
math
is.
Isn't for
I'm just
me.
born like
I
this.
think we've all said that. You know, I'm just not a math person.
We use math a lot in our episodes as examples.
Because it's relatable. It's much easier to say that than like, okay, I'm gonna create a study plan next time. Because you don't want to study you don't want to study math. It's so terrible. It makes you feel bad. So you want to just avoid it by saying that, by making excuses instead of like jumping to conclusions.
And that's part of self-care, is to break that habit. And like, I feel like people, when I say self-care, first thing I think about is like a spa day with like sheet masks and cucumber slices. But that's not all there is to self-care. And self-care isn't like easy as well. I think a lot of people think it's just easy. You slap on a face mask, you drink a lot of lemon water, and you feel better about yourself. That's like popularized culture self-care. I think, I don't want to say real self-care, because obviously that is still real self-care.
It's all subjective.
Right? But like another form of mental work and self-care is just taking the time to be mindful. So like mindfulness, journaling, meditation, which sounds really cheesy and generic, but you know, it works.
I think an easy way for people to start, for me, was actually through CAS, like this
Oh, really?
CAST project.
Oh, yeah.
Because like CAST forces you to like try new things, but doing it in like a more meaningful way, right? Because you have to
Yeah.
like reflect on it. You have to kind of like set goals for yourself. So yeah, I think those are two good principles. I think the most important principle is setting goals. So you're like, so when the next time you do something, you actually, there's like it's meaningful because you're
Yeah.
trying to achieve a goal.
Yeah.
You're not just doing it for the sake
Yeah.
of doing it. Like let's say if you're like doing chores or you're like washing the dishes, maybe if you set a goal for yourself, it's like, let's see, like if I can get it done within like 10 minutes, that would be
Then
like,
you do it like better and
like,
faster.
Yeah, rather than just
Yeah.
like doing it for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
You're like robotic, you're doing things without meaning.
Setting a purpose for when you're self-reflecting, you're asking yourself like, why am I reflecting on this? Like
Yeah.
maybe it could be that internal system of thinking is affecting the way you behave around other people. So I think personally, I do that a lot where like I think about the way that I think because it's easier for me to process my emotions and thoughts in a analytical manner.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's just the way I am. So like I think about, you know, why did I say why did I say that today during my conversation with like this person, or why did I think that? Why am I feeling so insecure about my like face today? You know, and I think asking targeted questions that capture the root of like the problem.
It's like interviewing yourself,
Yeah.
basically. Like you're your own therapist.
Yeah.
If it's hard to confront yourself, I think maybe if you have someone to confront you for you, if that makes sense, like to kind of be mindful for you, that could help. And I think that's one of the strategies that we have mentioned is talking with people. It's like, because it is hard to confront yourself, especially like when you don't feel like doing it. But when someone else is doing it, it's forced on you. You're basically being held captive. Like you can't escape it if someone else is doing it for you. And I think that's one of the strategies that can really help you be more mindful. I think
like,
just talking with a friend or like with your family can definitely help you be more mindful.
Interpersonal communication can help with intrapersonal communication.
Yeah, especially like when they ask you questions like, why did you do that? You know, why did you feel like that? What do you think about that? Then like you're forced to like start to think about it because it's easy to just like distract yourself by doing work or like
Not think
indulging
about
in
it.
like leisure activities to just like avoid thinking about like what you did or like certain behaviors that you have.
I think it's important to do this with people who like understand you and won't judge you for thinking certain things, because the whole point of doing that is to remove judgment and like negative aspects of that self-talk. So if you do it with people who are going to judge you, like that's not going to help. And obviously it's not easy to find people who will, you know, just identify it and then like look at it in a very objective manner with you. But if you can find those type of like people to talk with, it's really great because, you know, in talking about it, you're verbally processing it and you're like, oh yeah, you know, you might come to some realizations that you may not previously had. And that's whenever I come across like a social problem or like an identity crisis, or if I had like a conflict with someone else, I always talk to some of my closest friends or my mom and my dad about it. And like they don't even have to say anything sometimes just me like telling them about it, I realized I was like, oh, that's why I was acting that way, you know.
Yeah, it's good to like just get like another person's perspective. Because no matter how much we try to like be like dissociate from ourselves, you're obviously still like yourself, and you're gonna have certain biases. And like it's good to like just talk to someone with a fresh perspective on like the situation, and you might realize that like you are the wrong person in like the conflict, or like you made like a wrong decision, rather than like trying to prescribe like or trying to like find the error in other people.
And it's important to identify that sometimes even if you're in the wrong, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. But like knowing, identifying, identifying that you have these points in your life where you're not always right, or you made the wrong decision, you said the wrong things, and then learning from that, moving on from that, and like apologizing, being the bigger person. That's what helps. It aids in like intrapersonal communication and like self-growth, growth as an individual. There is this tricky thing in psychology where it's like you're biased because you're not biased. How do you explain this?
So there's like a term called blind spot bias, and it's like when you are aware of your own biases, when you think you're aware of your own biases,
And therefore you think you're unbiased,
yeah, yeah.
but
then
you're still biased.
In reality, you are biased. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, I'm such a unbiased person, and like I think this not only applies to like, this applies to intrapersonal psychology too. If you're just like, oh, I journal, I constantly set goals for myself.
Therefore, I'm open-minded to everything.
I'm very open-minded
but
to
you're
everything.
not.
But like maybe you're not. So I
Yeah.
think there's always room for improvement. You should never settle and think that like I'm perfect now. And that applies to every part of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can always do better or be more mindful, especially.
But then there's double blind spot bias and triple blind
Maybe,
spot.
yeah. I mean, you can never get rid
it's
of your bias,
unavoidable. Yeah.
I think if you're struggling with what's it called, like bad interpersonal communication, try positive self-talk. Just say things out loud. It might sound stupid and it's gonna be hard when you first do it.
It's definitely gonna
Yeah.
sound stupid, but
Just
you
say-
have to be stupid.
you have to like
Yeah.
just talk to yourself like in the third person and be like, you can do it. When something bad happens, just try and like
This doesn't define me.
motivate yourself. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Be like, if you fail the test, it's like it's just one test. I will study harder next time. I understand what I need to do moving forward, like what I should do on the next test, what I should avoid, how to manage my time better,
Yeah.
rather than being like, oh, I'm so bad at this, I'll never be good at this. I studied this much, I studied like so and so hours, and I still can't pass.
Yeah,
I'm just
maybe
stupid. Yeah, that's
think
not
about
good.
it from a different perspective. Maybe you need to study with a different strategy.
Yeah.
That's what I tell myself a lot. If it didn't work out this time, I'll try something
Yeah.
else next time. And this doesn't define my worth as an individual. A lot of like positive affirmations going
Yeah.
on, that really helps.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's it, right?
I think
Yeah.
that's it. Hopefully you found this helpful.
Yeah.
Your two local therapists. No, we're not giving therapy to anyone.
See
All
you
right.
in a while. It's gonna be a while.
Yeah, summer vacation is coming up, so
Yes.
we're gonna be gone for like 3 months.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even though that's like our usual break. It's probably gonna be like half a break.
Yeah. We're gonna continue this like after
Yeah,
summer,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Even if our cast project
Yes.
is done, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
helpful for both us and you, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye bye.